You know, I always hated speculative fiction. And I hate it more when the perpetrator obviously has some mental issues and wants to feel good about herself to try and quote-unquote trans or non-binary historical figures. Now, there was never transgender or never non-binary in the old days when Louisa May Alcott lived. There were women who did not conform to being property of men. Some women, novelists like George Eliot, that's a good one there, she decided to take on a man's pen name because that increased her chances of getting published. Because women weren't considered smart enough even to write a novel. They weren't smart enough to paint paintings. They weren't smart enough even to vote or even to own property. They were just things to fuck and things to have babies. Just like the Taliban in Afghanistan wants to revert women to property of men. So they're trying to cut off, or they have cut off, higher education to women that live there. Because women are just there to fucking bear babies and be locked up. So this nitwit, who is a woman who thinks she's a guy or calls herself a guy, what's her name? I wish they'd use her real name and not some fake shit. Dr. Gregory Iselin. She's certain that the author identified as Little Women. She wrote about women, right? She wrote a novel, Little Women and Little Men, right? She wrote those books. And they're classics of children's lit. And I read those books 100 years ago. I couldn't tell you much about them now because I haven't looked at them in decades. But she thinks because this woman defied gender stereotypes or sex role stereotypes of the era, that had to make her trans. That had to make her non-binary. There's no such thing as either one. She was a woman, and even if she had actually thought she should have been, that she would have liked to have been a man, that's because life would have been easier for her. That's why. It's not because she wanted to be a damn dude. She wanted to have the privileges that men had. But who is this Iselin goddamn thing? Probably teaches at a... Unfortunately, the New York Times thing is under a paywall. Oh, God, I can't even spell. Gregor. Oh, she teaches at Kansas State University. If that's her. Yeah, it is. So she's a professor of English and university distinguished teaching scholar and graduate faculty. And she has a PhD from the University of Iowa. So this woman who hates herself so damn much, she's decided to take on a false identity. She wants to project that false identity on a long dead celebrated author. And of course this could have been transgender. No, that wasn't even there was no such thing. There's no such thing now. But isn't it terrible when you tear up people's reputations to further a political agenda? And you know damn well this Iselin, or whatever her name is, that she's steeped in queer theory. But she draws on a quote given by Alcott in the early 1880s where she says, "I am more half persuaded that I am a man's soul put in by some freak of nature into a woman's body." That doesn't mean shit. That doesn't mean she was a man trapped in a woman's body, dipshit. It's because she It's because women were so constricted then, they couldn't even own property until the mid-1800s. And even after that, they were so constricted by coverture and stuff, the remnants of that, their options were so limited. So yeah, she thought she had a man's ambitions because she wanted to do more than be just a damn fuck toy and incubator and probably die in childbirth. Oh, God. And then she draws on Alcott's journal entries in which she wrote, I long to be a man. I was born with a boy's nature, a boy's spirit, and a boy's wrath. That doesn't mean anything. For decades, academics have shied away from arguing that Alcott was well, she wasn't. Of course not. She was a woman. She was a woman in a so-called man's world. The way folks from the 19th century thought about, they didn't even think about gender, sex, sexual identity, sexuality, is different. That's what she says. Dr. Isling added, yeah, she gave that, yeah, it's different, but they didn't even have that, and Isling knows this. What she's doing, like so many women do, is she sells women down the river to benefit men. And Isling obviously hates herself as a woman so much that she mutilated herself, however she did, and took on a so-called man's name and decided to call herself a man. That doesn't change the fact that she's a woman. Doesn't change anything. Oh, and then another paid liar, that infamous Susan Stryker, says that people felt remarkably similar ways to contemporary transgender women or people. You know what this means? This means women have no right to history. They have no right to claim any kind of fame. Historical figures have nothing. We've heard about Joan of Arc being trans. Now we're getting Louisa May Alcott being trans. All this shit that's lies. All of it shit. Total lying shit. No, Alcott was a woman. Joan of Arc was a woman. Just because they didn't conform to whatever doesn't change what they are. And how dare you try to obliterate the rights of women? Of course, Stryker's a man, pretending, calling himself a woman. It is believed that Alcott went by the name Lou among friends and family and referred herself. Well, first of all, Lou is a common woman's name. Hate to tell you that. We don't know any of that shit. But the thing is, nobody knows even that she was a lesbian because there's nothing there. It's baloney. Early in the novel, and this is Joe in Little Women, I can't get over my disappointment not being a boy. Yeah, because life was shit for women. Life was total shit, and still is shit for women. Like I said, ask the Afghanistan women how great it is when you're relegated it to a damn fuck toy and incubator. And apparently this idiot academic who should lose her job, she's probably tenured, hates herself. Doesn't think women are smart enough to be called women. Any women, they're too smart, they're men now. They have a male brain. This goddamn shit needs to go. All of it. The queer theory, the trans movement, all of it. It needs to go in the garbage can. Totally in the garbage can. This stuff made me mad. And I wish I had access to that article. Yeah, she really looks like a dude, doesn't she? Probably tiny. Another disagreed with the content, writing, this was a comment. No, it's a common 19th century motif in context in which women had circumscribed lives and wish to be a man was to wish to be a choice. Yeah, they wanted the freedom and privilege, and they didn't get it because they were good for staying home and bearing babies and being a mommy and being a thing to fuck. Shit, I'm so sick of this. I'm so sick of this. This rewriting of history. I'm so sick of it. Anyway, that's enough for my rant today.